Here's some advantages and disadvantages of each of these different types of energy resources. Solar cells, great when it's sunny, perfect if you live in the outback of Australia. You have sun a lot of the time. You can use a battery system to store that electrical energy that you are generating during those sunny days. They are expensive to build. They take a lot of energy to build. But once they're built, they have very little pollution, and they're very reliable in very sunny countries. Geothermal, great if you live in a country like Iceland. Really reliable. We put the water down into the hot rocks in the earth, and we get steam out that turns the turbine, that turns the generator, that generates that electricity. We may get some release of greenhouse gases. I don't know if you've ever been to Iceland, but it smells very sulfury when you go anywhere near one of these geothermal hot springs. But they have a small impact on the environment. 98% of the electricity in Iceland is produced through geothermal means. So it's really, really ecologically friendly in that respect. Okay, wind turbines. We have wind turbines near our house. They are renewable. They have no air pollution. Some say that there's lots of noise from them. Some say that they don't look very nice, but they do impact on birds and wildlife and change habitats. They have quite a high cost to install, but the key thing is they're not as reliable in the fact that there's no wind, they don't work. Hydroelectric has a massive impact on the environment that it's in, because we are building a dam and holding water back and using that gravitational potential energy that we've learned about to turn that turbine, to turn the generator, to generate that electricity. So it has very high install costs. They used it in quite kind of mountainous areas or hilly areas like France. Wave power disturbs the seabed. It is renewable, there's no pollution. Unreliable, spoils the view, and high cost to install. A lot of these renewable sources have these very high costs to install. Tidal barrages are really useful because as the tides come in, you hold the water back behind a dam, and then you allow it to flow through the dam or the turbines as you need the electricity. So you can actually, produce electricity on demand much more easily. But it can change the habitats, and it can restrict boating access. Biofuels, these not just made from plant and animal feces, but plant and animal matter. It can be burnt to generate electricity. Renewable, reliable. They say it can be carbon neutral, but it depends on how many trees you plant as to how well it's carbon neutral. If you're using, I don't know, wood pellets in a biomass boiler, for example. So with high costs, growing biofuels can also cause deforestation in areas, because we need land to grow those trees or to grow those plants that we use as our biofuels. And have a look at what we've been looking at in biology. So we have been looking at plant tissues and organs and transportation in plants. And we can't talk about plants without talking about leaves. Okay, leaves are these layered structures. They have a waxy cuticle, this upper epidermis, this palisade mesophyll. Now you can see in the palisade mesophyll, those cells are arranged in that vertical arrangement. That's to allow more light to come through, so that if they were layered on top of each other, the ones at the bottom wouldn't get as much light, whereas if they're vertically like this, it really helps the light go all the way through those cells. Then we have this spongy mesophyll involved in gas exchange, that carbon dioxide into the plant, that oxygen out of the plant. And then we have this stoma, which is a pore-like structure in the underside of the leaf, and these guard cells. Now, guard cells control the opening and closing of the stomata. Their main purpose is to control the opening and closing of the stomata for gas exchange. But as a result of that, the plants lose some water through a process called transpiration, this evaporation of water off the leaves. And we're going to have a look at that in a little bit more detail in a moment. So the leaves also contain xylem and phloem. Now, we looked at xylem and phloem in specialized cells. So the xylem carries the water from the roots to the shoots up the plant. It is dead tissue, it is hollow. And it's just a transportation straw, for want of a better word. The phloem is live tissue. It carries those nutrients in both directions. from source to sink. Sources can be in the leaves, the sinks can be in the roots, if you're thinking of a potato plant, for example. But you may also need, or the plant may also need, to move starch and sugars from the potatoes up to the leaves for if it's in unfavorable conditions. So there's lots of reasons for it wanting to make nutrients flow in both directions. So remember, we came across these root hair cells when we're looking at specialized cells, that they have this large surface area to absorb the water, and via osmosis, and then via active transport some minerals. Okay, so there's just a diagram here of our xylem and phloem. You can see them shown as part of these vascular bundles in the stem there, those xylem being that dead tissue on the inside, the phloem being that tissue that's made of live cells. Those sieve tube elements, you can see, has those sieve plates there.